Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the latest episode of Grow Your Tutoring Business. We've got an expert copywriter sat in front of us right now, and I'm really excited. We've connected previously before. We had a really good conversation just about all things business and particularly things to do with words. So this is Suzanne Frear. She is, what's the name of your business, Suzanne?
Oh, it's really original. It's Suzanne Frear.
Do you know what? That is a question that gets asked a lot. Like, what should I call my business? And actually, your name's such a good thing to start with. Brilliant. And also just to grow. So many people I connect with just have their name. And I do too, Richard Cowell Education, right? That's just pretty much, it sums it all up.
Exactly.
I'm really excited and can't wait to just have this conversation, but then to share it with everybody because I was saying like, don't judge me just before we press record that the first website, I know we're not going to be solely focused on website stuff today, but the idea of using words to connect and then sell was well outside my comfort zone when I first started business. And the very first website that I paid for that never saw the light of day was one of those ones where someone emails you and says, oh, I'm going to build your website. We're going to do it for a portfolio. It's going to cost you, nothing basically. And I said, yes, paid the money, which is about £200. And then they like, but we want all these things from you. And it was like, logos, it was like branding, it was
Yeah.
the colors you wanted, and then obviously the actual copy, the words to put on. And I was like, I have no idea to do any of this. So I paid the money and just ran a mile from it. And I think
Yeah.
there is a balance between finding the right words to use and then having copy that you can go back and kind of utilize on the
Absolutely.
website, on your socials. And this is why I'm excited, because there is like ways that you can capture your brand voice and still have the right things in place to make your websites stand out and pop
Yeah.
out. So tell us a
Well,
little
that's
bit
the
about
that's
what you
the
do.
aim. Yeah, that's great. Copywriting should do those things for you. But it's interesting what
Yeah.
you're saying because I know when I started my business, there's so much you don't realize goes into the stuff behind the scenes. I mean, we start our businesses. I mean, mine
Yeah.
happens to be in words, but we start doing what we're doing because we love what we're doing
Yeah.
generally. And that's the thing we're focused on. When it comes to most of us, unless we're working in websites or copywriting or things like that, we don't understand what goes into a website. So you see how it looks, and you see how it feels to you. But of course, it needs to come with words. It needs to come with the
Mm,
tech behind it. It needs to make sense and flow and all those things. Yeah, but I guess that's what you're helping your tutors with. It's like learning these processes and what else needs to be put in, not just turning up
yeah.
and doing the tutoring.
Well, particularly if you're going to, or you want to scale.
Yeah,
Like, if
exactly.
you want to get to, look, I think tuition in some cases can be quite a strange industry in terms of how it works from a business perspective, because anybody at
Mhm.
any point, or any teacher, or anybody who's good at teaching and be a qualified teacher, could go, right, I'm going to just set up on a Sunday and I'm going to charge this amount and you'll find students. It's natural that if you use your own contacts, you could end up earning a good £300-400 just a week doing it in that sense. And it's almost quite an immediate thing, particularly once word of mouth gets out there. So you end up with without doing much at all. You think, oh, my business is going, this is great, and I can scale it to another day and another day. But those tactics only take you so far,
Mm-hmm.
particularly if you want to become an online tutor. If you want to do anything online, you better have an online presence, right? Because it makes sense, right? That's the
Exactly.
story that people want to look for. Then you need to have sales pages, and then you need to have a homepage or a way of people or some place for somebody to land to find out more about you. Um,
Mhm.
Particularly on a scale to a certain point where it does provide a full-time income, or even better, you can find financial freedom. So yeah, 100%. Like anybody who's grown an online business, online tuition business, website is almost like a must. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be the first thing you do, but it's a top priority.
Absolutely. It's a great way to be found. I mean, as you say, I mean, a lot of people would start with a tutor that was recommended or would be locally, or, perhaps comes through the
Mm,
school or that a friend nearby uses them. But the beauty of being online means you can obviously administer that tutorial from anywhere in the globe. So having an online
mm,
presence means that you're then reaching more people and being able to administer what you do on a much larger scale. And so yeah, absolutely, online presence, it's so important. And that's the majority of places I help people. I mean, and in theory, I can help with print media
Yeah.
and with different things, but in general, it's electronic media that I'm working with. To go on websites, to be sent out in emails,
Yeah.
etc.
See, this is the other bit that I think I suppose, underestimate. I like to say we. I say I underestimate in the sense that I can set up a website homepage with the information
Mm-hmm.
that's required. I'm not saying it would be really high converting because it's not my area of expertise. But if I was going to do it on
Yeah,
my own, there'd be certain pattern that I might follow. Yeah, I think you mentioned the
yeah,
word flow, like a flow to
yeah,
whether it's a homepage
absolutely.
or a sales page. But if I really wanted to nail it properly for somebody to capture that, you used the word personality before we had
Mm-hmm.
press record, that personality of that someone, as well as
Mm-hmm.
tick off some of the boxes you might need to tick
Yeah.
in terms of the search engine optimization. And this doesn't just relate to your website. It might be in other places as well, because I think the isn't Google, is Google, no, not Google. Google is the number one search engine, but
Mm-hmm.
isn't YouTube still number two?
Yeah, I believe so.
And
The last time I did something
and
like that, yeah.
and I think TikTok is now also
Oh yeah, yeah.
really increasing. Like we're kind of, not us, or I'm gonna say us, not me, because I'm old. I just go to Google. But actually, like what they call in Gen Z, I don't really understand those things. But I'm gonna say children my age. I've got a 22-year-old. They're
Okay.
more likely to go to TikTok and search than Google.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
there's like a trend of like SEO is not just important on your website. It's actually important on all of the places you are going
Absolutely.
to be kind of like being an online presence. So it's one of those skills and keywords really, one of those skills that we all need to be aware of because it's going to impact in other parts of our business. But I think it's quite good to start. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's go back to
Okay.
just words. Let's go back to just
Yeah.
words, right? Because that's essentially what we're talking about. Why are these words so important? If we forget SEO for now and
Okay.
say like, actually, let's not bring SEO into the mix because that's quite I suppose an operational thing and something we need to keep coming back to on an operational level. But words that connect, words that
Yeah.
people, when they read it, they feel something. Like
Exactly.
how do we get from me having a homepage that says here's my timetable, here's my prices, into
Yeah.
someone landing there and finding out more about me? How do we go from me just being a tutor to having this web page that makes potential clients feel like, oh my god, yeah, this is the person for me? What's the process?
So as you say, these words on your webpage, on your homepage, or throughout your services and things, they need to do a number of things. They need to connect and resonate with your potential audience.
Hmm.
They need to demonstrate your personality because in general with services such as these, the customer, the client is buying into you, so they need to
Hmm.
know who and what they're getting. And they also need to demonstrate your expertise to show that you can do what you're talking about. So we start off by obviously we start off with ourselves, with the company, with the business, with the values, and really working out who we are and what we stand for. And this often comes through from a great tagline, which is where you can build all your language from.
Okay.
So, for example, I use part of my tagline is making your brilliant business shine. So I've got two really evocative words there, brilliant and shine. And
Hmm.
I'll use a lot of that in the rest of the imagery through my language throughout my website so that it's something to rely upon. That's who I am. It's what I offer. So, I'm a bright and shining person in that I've got a loud personality. I love to laugh. And so that is there. But also, I want to see you shine. I want to see how
Hmm.
great you can be. And by me doing my job well, that's what we will make happen for you.
Hmm.
In addition to that, especially on the homepage or throughout on the testimonial page, which is really important, that is where we can bring in the words of others who really back up the stuff you've done. And it's so important to get that, to share that. And these words are really, it's social proof because people buy from people trust
Hmm.
people. And so these are all the things your website needs to do. It needs to talk about yourself, it needs to connect with your customer where they are, and prove that you can do what you're saying you're going to do. So you've done the work on yourself. You've done some market research. You've perhaps spoken to people you've worked with, and you've you want to sort of drill down and get some language from them. And the best thing to do is just literally speak to them, see what their problems are, see what their losses are, and what their wins are once they've worked with you. Take those words and repeat them back in your messaging, and you will automatically resonate with your customer because you're using their words. It's all very well, I could come up with all sorts of flowery words to talk about what you do and how you do it, but your customer may be thinking, well, no, that's the wrong price point for me because the words they're using, either they're not expert enough, or they clearly, are overshooting. I want something in the middle. So we have to speak to the customer and understand where they're coming from.
That's really amazing, actually. Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that, because I'd never really thought about it in that way before. I'd just come up with the words myself and go, I'm based on experiences, but just never really gone, what are my testimonials saying? What are the people actually often repeating back or feeding back, that I could just go and use what's actually already there?
Yeah, it's such a powerful tool. I mean, you say that you've not really thought of it, but you're probably doing it as part of what you're doing anyway, because you're doing it from experience, and you do speak to your customers all the time, your clients, your students. You are getting that feedback, and you will be absorbing that language in some way or another, even if you're not using it verbatim. But it is so, so powerful. And then secondly, with the testimonials, which backs up everything, and obviously you'll have your qualifications and the experience you've got, but there is nothing like using a quote from someone to really back up what you say you can provide, and to show how their life has changed, or their shiny new world with you in it, or using your services, and where it's got them. And so
there's
it's
like
showing their journey from A to B.
So there's like that direct link between, look, this is what I say I do, and this is how, and those words there, and then that links to your testimonials, which is, he does say, he does, what he says is true. Look, here we go.
Absolutely.
It's just a direct link between the two. Yeah, great. I really love that. And do you know what? I actually feel like that relieves some of the pressure in some way. Yeah, I do, because we kind of sit here as again talking before we press record, or saying like, I wonder who would be listening to this. And in my mind, it's like those people who are maybe at that stage of wanting a website, or maybe got a website but not utilizing it in the best way. Maybe we can just up the level a bit. Often it's like, well, what can I put? And then we start with a blank page, and we're like, right, we need to come up with these words, and we might go and find inspiration, and you can, like, maybe that tagline is what's missing. But if you already know what your customers are saying, you know what your clients are talking about and the words they use, write that down and use that as your inspiration. That to me feels like a weight lifted.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
exactly. You should definitely, I mean, whether the term is brainstorm, we're still allowed to use the word brainstorm.
Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, mind mapping, mind there. I like the mind map. Yeah, okay.
Blue sky thinking. But this is it. Never think of it as a totally empty page. Put down all the things you think about your business. Put down the story you think you believe your customers to be in, where they are right now, what's their problem, what problems are they facing, why can't they find the right tutor, have they experienced some tutors and it didn't work, what was the problem, really sort of nail down, and why you're different, why you'll meet that niche of the corner of the market more than the next tutor or company might do. What's the slight difference that you can offer that your customer is really looking for? And just write down loads and loads of words. They don't have to be sentences. Often when people sit down to write, whether it's a newsletter, a blog, or like a website or something, they want to write it perfect from the start. You want to, almost like a full story. Once upon a time there was, and then in the middle this happened, and then they all lived happily ever after. And it doesn't happen like that. You have to think, what I do personally, the very first version is what I call the vomit version, because it's a brain vomit. You just get it all out, and it'll make no sense, and there's no punctuation, and it might leap from subject to subject, and it'll come all the way back around. It's the redrafting is where the magic happens. So if you can get all your ideas down on paper, and you can start to tease them out, cross some stuff out, highlight some more, start another page and move it over. And each time you drill down a little bit more, you'll get more sense and more story to take your customer on that journey. And that's where I think, the real magic happens. So don't try not to be overfazed by the blank page. Just cover that in words, cover it in anything, and start to distill it out every time. that
Is
make
that
sense?
also a way to end up becoming a bit more succinct with the message you really want? So you start with like
Absolutely. Yeah.
whoosh, and then you go, actually, that doesn't quite fit, or that doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you end
Yeah.
up with something that was like a super long form, maybe newsletter or email that gets condensed
Absolutely.
into. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and and like with anything, practice, may not be perfect, but it will help. And the more you do
Mm,
it, the less scary it seems.
yeah.
So, and the other thing you can look at is AI. You can use that for,
Mm,
idea generation, or how to, put things in so that you don't miss anything.
mm,
There's loads of different tools that, you shouldn't be scared of getting those words down and giving it a go. And just, if you can get them down, first of all, and then secondly, you start to create the structure, the story, the flow,
mm,
take your customer on a journey from pain point to benefit to a
mm.
whole new life. And, you know, that's what you want to sell them, is this whole new way of doing something with your help.
Yeah, yeah, like destination. Where are you
Yeah,
heading to? How are we going to get you there? Yeah, sure. And then this is what it's going to feel like when you make it. So that
yeah.
transformation type approach. Okay, so we kind of moved and in a really good way moved from like that idea of having a website and using words in that respect to
Mhm.
perhaps newsletters and emailing and kind of almost like a sequencing of
Yeah.
maybe ideas. I don't have to be a sequence of ideas, but maybe we're just connecting with our ideal clients through our email list or through our social media.
Hmm.
Is there like you spoke earlier on about almost like a formula there, like what we want to take that kind of little journey through an email? Is there something we should be thinking about if we're going, put the websites to one side for a second and think
Hmm.
about like maybe a social media or
Hmm.
an email? Is there like a kind of journey we want to take them through? Where do we begin? Where do we take them to the middle, and where do we end?
Okay. The most powerful thing you can do with social media and with email newsletters is get them written. Just make the contact in the first place. Um, if you don't write it down, if you don't put it on social media or don't send it, you're not contacting them at all.
Mm,
The second thing is you can write what's literally in your brain. As someone said to me recently, don't think of them as newsletters. Think of them as love letters. You're writing to someone you know, and you're telling them what's been going on. And
mm,
don't think anything further than that. Don't think that you have to sell. You're talking to them to build a relationship, and that's
mm,
so powerful. Because if think of it as a party, if I walked up to you multiple times at a party saying, buy my course, buy my course, buy my course, you're going to put your hand in my face and as politely as possible tell me to go
get it
away.
out. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas if I come up and go, hi, I'm Suzanne, how are you, we can start a conversation. And then
Mm,
it can turn into, oh, do you know what? I was thinking the other day about this problem that came up, and someone recommended this tutor over there. And you put it into the conversation once you build the relationship. So don't think about, here's my offer, buy it now or
mm,
forever hold your peace. Just, hi, I'm Suzanne. This is what I do. This is how I do it. What do you do? It's try and get the conversation. If you can
mm,
get them talking back to you, you're getting that market research as well, which is,
mm,
working even harder for you. Now, one thing we do talk about is a nurture sequence, which you can start off with your email list. So this is something that you could either, when they very first sign up to you, you could have a 3 or 5 email sequence, which ideally, yes, would conclude in some kind of offer. But it would start off very much with, like I say, an introduction, a background, the idea of I see you, I know how you feel, I've been there myself. And you can talk about what they've tried and what they've hadn't. So it's a lot of the same messaging you're using in other sales, but it's very much a drip feed over a few emails. It gives them the chance to opt out if they're not interested, in which
mm,
case, great, they're not your customer.
mm,
But by the end of it, yeah, you could say, okay, you stuck out till number 3, number 5, whatever. If you reply to this email and take up my services, you get 10% discount, for example. But in
mm,
general, it's just a way, a tight, concise way for them to get to know you quickly. If they've not gone through your website, they've just signed up for your emails,
mm,
you're going to drip feed them some information. And then as time goes on, you have a regular newsletter that comes out, whether that's once weekly, twice monthly, whichever way you prefer. And for example, I'm just writing one now for
mm,
my own. email list. And I'm talking about decluttering in January. I'm not talking about the copywriting services I sell. I'm talking to people that are like me, who have come back to January, they run a business like me, and they want a little bit of clarity. January is so full of do, get this, achieve, set your goals, that I've sort of taken a step back and I'm doing things slightly differently. So I'm talking to them about that. And I mean, there will be a link to my website, and there will be a link to possibly a service that links to it somehow, but I won't outwardly be selling. And that's quite important, is if you turn up week after week after week. We've all had those emails. We get them from the much larger companies that don't care whether you read them or not. But as smaller businesses, we have to make the connection, build the relationship, speak directly to them, know who you're talking to, and get that feedback back. If you can get them replying to you, you know you've hit the spot.
I've got a question around this, because I've always been told different things, and then there's certain scientific stuff that makes sense with connections and touch points and real business type, words in there, touch points to the business. And it's kind of links to what you was talking about at the party as well, to a degree.
Yeah.
When we go to work every day, and we are forced into the same space as other people who we didn't know before, but they suddenly become our work friends and best friends, and which develops a relationship over time. But essentially, you're there every single day having that touch point with them. It's like almost like a forced friendship as such.
Yeah.
I was told in the beginning we should be sending emails every day. Now that makes me feel uncomfortable, right? Because I'm like, one, because I don't want to bother people, except I do understand the reason why, because I feel like that's almost the same as going to work with someone every day. So I do understand the reasoning behind it. But the second thing to that, which I know scares a lot of people, is I've no idea what I would even write every day. So I've committed this year to doing a newsletter every week, but really it's not really a newsletter. I'm calling it that so that people really understand the concept behind it. I'm just talking through an email. I've been growing an email list for a long time. I've not done anything with it because it's been growing. Things have been growing on Facebook in the group, right? So that's, you put your focus on what's growing. But I do appreciate that. I think, one, I want to practice my own writing, because like you say, practice is going to develop that skill. And my first, this was like something I wanted to start in January. And I was like, I still had the same fear as what I had when I first wanted to do this like 18 months ago. Don't know what I'm going to write every week. So and I have come out of a strategy around this. I've got the next, I don't know, 6 months pretty much from a title point of view. This is what I'd like to do. And I'm pretty free and easy because things change. But how do you go from like no ideas or content ideas into having the idea and then being able to write about it? Like, for example, like you're quite comfortable in not, or stepping outside of, this isn't going to be about copywriting, it's about decluttering. Like where do you get those inspirations from? What drives those things?
So what I probably shouldn't tell you is that at the moment I don't have a content strategy for my own emails. I do write them on the fly.
Yeah.
That's because I write so many other people's emails at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe 2024 is the year of practice what you preach, Suzanne.
Okay.
But one thing I've often prided myself is being able to make those links, and the links is how you can take a story that could just be something that happened to me. So, for example, I'm talking about decluttering, I'm talking about simplifying my life, and I will take that through to delegating a task, whether that could be a copywriting task.
Yeah.
And so it's something I've always been able to do, but that is what I try and take a little bit of just something that's happening in my life. So I often talk about the fact that I read books, and so that sometimes I will literally just send a newsletter about the book I've been reading, and asking people what they're reading. And so if you are sending one every week, you could maybe think about, one could be a real sell, like this is what's going on at the moment, and assume you're sort of working towards your membership.
Yeah.
So, you're really going to talk about the benefits of that membership. Another one could be, yes, you're still moving towards membership, but you're talking about a mini case study. You could talk about someone who's been in your group and the success they've seen. Then you could say, okay, what's been happening in your life? And literally just like, this is how January looks to me. But then link that back to, but I've been so busy, or I'm so excited about this that's happening in the group. Or I've seen the success of so-and-so, and do the non-employee of the week type thing, from your membership, that kind of, you bring them back
Yeah,
together.
yeah. It makes sense. And there's like the people I've connected with, and it might be similar to you, like maybe even outside of tuition, and just people I follow for inspiration, and then perhaps has led me to either buying a course or maybe downloading something from them. Um, is driven by that connection on a different level that's not about what they offer. And so a
Mm,
lot, when we start looking at social media content, say in the course, in our 12-week course, often it's like, look, yeah, of course, when we're doing our social media content, we do want to be able to showcase what we offer. And
mm,
that is a part of it, but it is actually quite a small part. And the other side of it is people want to get to know you, and then the response is usually, why does anybody want to know if I'm walking the dog down on the beach? Why does anybody want to
yeah,
know if? And I was like, well, I kind of felt the same 6 7 years ago when I was coming into business, and yet the first person I bought anything off from a self-development point of view,
yeah.
I felt like I knew them at a really high level
That's it.
because I did know about their little intricate day-to-day life. Not only to a point that they allowed us to. I'm not saying
Yeah.
they was constantly online sharing stuff because they wasn't, but it was interesting. And I don't have an answer as to why that is. We I suppose we crave connection. It's one thing, or we really value it. And so when we make those connections with
Yeah.
people, and this takes us full circle back to the written word again, is that when we read something and it
Mhm.
makes us feel something, or we feel heard, or we're like, oh my God, they're talking to me. That's me.
Yes,
That is
exactly.
when we go, right, this person's the right person for me.
And that is why it's also, at the same token, it's so important to be your real self.
Yeah.
If your members are really strong on feeling like, why do they want to see me walking the dog down the beach? If they are not comfortable sharing they're walking the dog down the beach, they shouldn't do it. If that sits
Mm,
really wrong with them, if
mm,
it's just a case of, oh God, I've never done that before, that's weird,
yeah.
I would say give it a go.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you find it consistently icky and it makes you feel weird and you think that I don't know, you're looking at the camera going, if you're not being yourself, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. But as you just said, it's that magical connection, that human touch,
Mm,
because people buy from people.
yeah.
We want to know you. We want to believe in you. And I don't think you can truly believe in a person unless they've got multi-million-dollar campaigns behind them, in which
Mm,
case it's speaking into a different part of our brain altogether.
yeah.
But on this level, it is about being open, honest, approachable, and saying, I'm the person for you, and these are the reasons why. Because sometimes between my tutoring, I'm so busy, but then I'll take the dog out on the beach, and that's when my brain switches off,
Mm,
and I enjoy, because I've been out for a walk this morning, and I blooming love it, and I haven't done it for a few days for lots of different reasons, and
mm,
it brought me great joy. So to know that someone else gets the joy from something
mm,
I do, it's like, yeah, I see you, I get that.
mm,
So you don't know who you're talking to. You don't know
mm,
who it might just spark that thing with. They might just
yeah.
love your dog and want to have a chat about your dog. And then it rolls into, well, actually, my teenager could do with some help.
Mm,
Go all over the
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
So don't don't write it off.
Mm,
I get that, the block against it. Some people don't want their faces on, and that's also
yeah.
fine. But if you're
Yeah.
going to start selling yourself your own service at some
Mm,
point, people need to know who you are. And
yeah.
then that brings us back to the name of the company, like we talked about.
Mm,
There is nothing more authentic than me saying, well, this is me. I'm Suzanne Frear and I'm a creative copywriter. And that's literally the name of my company.
mm,
And it lasts a long time,
yeah.
hopefully, if my
Yeah.
husband's a good
It
boy.
will. It will. Of course it will.
you know, so
Okay. I want to talk about something a bit more, maybe a little bit more operational,
go
which
on.
is sales pages,
Ah, yeah,
landing pages, how on it, and depending on how we want to call them and view them, because sales pages might be technically about one particular service on that particular page, and a landing page could be the same. But a landing
yeah.
page often is, it could be anything really. But the way I'm going to kind of view that with our conversation now is a landing page to grow an email list. So it has that
Okay.
one job. Whereas a sales page is, I suppose well, I'll be interested to hear your opinion on this, because obviously
Mm,
using the words, and there's some kind of a formula that people can start
yeah.
to play or put into play. Let's
Mm,
start with the sales page.
I mean, yeah, I mean, in essence, they're very, very similar. They've
Yeah.
both got a main goal to achieve something. A
Yeah.
sales page, obviously, you're trying to sell a
So,
course, a product, an event. It could
yeah.
be, a membership. And often with a landing page, like you say, if it's to grow an email list, you're still trying to sell something.
Yeah.
You're buying their email address,
Mm.
and normally you're giving them something. So whether you have a free Facebook group they could join, but you need their email address, or whether you've got a freebie, like a tick sheet or a crib sheet on how to, there's some kind of transaction at the end
Mm.
that's mutually beneficial to both of you.
Mm.
And so these pages need to do a number of things. They've got to talk about four main elements, and the first being the core problem. So you really need to understand the core problem of who you're talking to. So in as simple as the selling the newsletter subscription, so buying their email address from them, you've got to talk about what they're going to get in return. So whether, if you're not giving them a freebie, if, like, for example, I've got how to drill down into your perfect client is my freebie that I currently give when people sign up to my email list. If you're not giving them something, you've got to really sell your newsletters to these people. So you've got to tell them that, okay, I give out hints and tips. So if you're missing these hints and tips, or if you're looking for maybe an offer that might come up that only my newsletter subscribers will get, you've got to talk about that core problem, what they're missing in their lives, and how you're going to plug that gap, how you're going to fill it. You then want to talk about what next steps. So it's not as simple as, well, it is actually, as the newsletter, it's like literally plug it in. But in theory, you might be sort of fighting to get that out of them a little bit more. So you want to talk about, have you considered this option or that option, and weigh them up between each other. And you talk about the benefits, the pros and cons of each one. And you want to talk about what they've tried before. Have they looked at other people? Have they given their email address away before? And the product or the freebie or the newsletters themselves weren't up to muster. So we talk about those things, and we really start to get into the psyche and start resonating with them and their pain points. And once you're on that level, you want to start to make them feel good. So you say, but this is what I will bring, and this is how, and I will turn up once a week, like you've said. If I turn up once a week, and I promise I'm going to bring you some brilliant tips or brilliant recommendations, or how to scale your business, or money off with a partner that I work with, things like that. So if there's a website designer and you're doing a push on people coming and getting set up, you can say, well, if you sign up through me for this person, you'll get money off, but you'll only get that on my email list. It sounds like a hard sell, but once you write it down and you speak to them and you make the connection, it's like a friend offering help, and just say, if you can give me your email address, then
Providing value. Providing value in there. Yeah, it's a reason to be there. It's a reason to open, a reason to have a read. Yeah, definitely get that.
Absolutely. You look at the problem, you're going to paint them a picture. For some reason, my reactions on my Zoom call are going strange. Every so often it waves a hand. So I'm pleased to see you, but just to let you know, every so it keeps doing that. I think it's because I'm waving my hand at this. AI, it's gone mad. You look at their problem, you're going to paint a picture. So you put yourself within it. You say, yes, I've been there. You're going to put over your story, say how you got to be, why you're so good, what changes you can make. But one of the magical things you can do is to take their objections before they make them. And that's one thing, a really, really great sales page. You probably don't need this for a newsletter landing page. But people are going to say, well, couldn't I find this out on Google? Yes, you could, but you wouldn't have me holding your hand. If I don't like it, do I get my money back? So-and-so does this course. What's the difference? So if you address this like a frequently asked questions at the end of your, or towards the end of your sales page, this is where you can really make or break it. And more often you're going to make it, but you're going to see off those people who aren't there, and the kind of people who are going to, if they do buy into it, they're not going to stick around. They're going to ask for the money back, or they're going to complain. So you're weeding out those last few. So that's really, really important, and can be quite powerful when you really address those objections before they make them. And it also puts you, it reinstates you as they're on their level, that you understand it. You know, you've been there, you get it, and you've heard the objections, but this is why it will work. And if you can get all that in your sales page, that sales page
It's
will
strong.
convert. I can't promise that, but it will definitely
But it'd be
work.
strong. And also, I think
Oh,
the other thing here, which I think some people will need to hear, is that it actually reduces how wiki selling is. Because if someone's at the end of that sales page and they're still like, oh, okay, this all really talks to me, but I'm just going to send a question off, or they can send you an email, they might
yeah,
send you a voice note, whatever. You're not at the point where you're having to convince this person. You're at the point where you're at, probably at where you need to ask a question. There's probably something missing. Well, what is it? But it feels less. They're already at a stage where they're probably 90% of the way there.
yeah,
And so you
absolutely.
don't have to sit there and do that. Well, I've got 5 minutes to do a pitch and I've got to explain. You don't do that, because that's what your
No,
sales page is for, and probably what you put in before they even get to the sales page anyway. But yeah,
yeah,
answering objections up front, powerful
yeah.
stuff for everybody.
Absolutely. You're
Who's this?
qualifying your leads straight
Yeah.
off, like you say. If someone's taking the time then to say, oh, I'm just going to ask them this quick question, like you say, you've pretty much got them. Because speaking from a consumer point of view, if I
Yeah.
was going to take the time to ask a question, I
You were
pretty
there.
much know I want it. I just want them to tell me it's all right to buy it.
And this is good feedback, because then you add that question in. It's like,
Absolutely.
so,
Everything is feedback. Everything is
yeah.
research. And
Um,
everything should be, yeah, tweaked and put back in. Absolutely.
I'm really pleased that we've got to connect and share in this way, because I know there's going to be a lot of people in my audience who probably skirt around the idea of, I'd love to do a newsletter, I'd love to build a website, but I don't quite know how to do it.
Yeah.
But there is support. There is support there for everybody. So, for
Mhm.
example, you wouldn't come to me for copywriting. Like, that's just not gonna. I something which I still learning to do myself, and also it's never going to be my zone of genius. Yeah, I want to get a bit better at writing and connecting with people through social
Mm.
media and emails or newsletters, whatever you want to call them. But essentially, there's you, who's actually an absolute expert that can draw out. If you feel completely stuck, like I don't even know where to
Yeah.
start, there are
Yes.
experts like yourself who can go, right, let's go through the process of finding out
Absolutely.
your values. Let's look at what would your tagline be.
Mm.
What are your current clients already telling you? Let's start. I'm picking all of this information, because we're sat on a wealth of it and we don't even realize, and then we
Yeah.
can start using that to really start to grow and to scale. So for somebody who is inspired, and they will be by yourself, Suzanne, what's the best way for them to come and connect with you?
So you can always find me hanging out on Instagram. I like it. It's my pretty place. So I'm just
Okay.
there at Suzanne Frear _. Otherwise, there's my website, which should answer a lot of questions, but you can sign up to my newsletter. You can get the freebies I talked about. There's always new ones being added, but I know that there is the drill down to your perfect customer and help you develop that language, which can be really, really useful
Okay.
for people who've just not done it before.
Mm.
And my website is suzannefrear.co.uk.
And what we'll do is I'll make sure that I've got all the links, and I'll chuck them in all the notes and make sure people makes it
Brilliant.
really easy for everybody. So Instagram's the best place on social media.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
on LinkedIn as well. If that's something
LinkedIn.
that's people are more sort
I'll
of,
put that all on
that's
there.
where they're based. I am on there. I'm just not on there as regularly, but I am
Okay.
there. So I can always contact you there as well.
Okay, great. And we'll make sure your website's on there and give them the links to all the freebies so they can sign up. That'd be great. Suzanne,
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed chatting with you. I knew I was going to enjoy it from when we met previously.
Oh,
I can't wait to get this out there so everyone can listen to. But thank you so much for your
fabulous.
time. I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate it.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Richard. Thank you.
Great.